approached by a strange man by the name of Simon Adams. Adams offers to deal with the rapist on the proviso that, when the time comes, will assist his organisation in the future. Initially reluctant, Will finally agrees, and Simon duly makes good on his promise, with the rapist murdered in cold blood. Several months pass, and slowly the devastated couple put their lives back together. Then, inevitably, the time comes to repay the favour. You seen the current movie for once, Nathaniel?
Yes, I made the effort for once. I thought I'd get off the set here and go actually watch it.
Well done.
Thanks.
Well done.
Interesting enough story, I guess. A kind of scene setting where you place yourself in the same place as Gerard, asking yourself, would I do the same? So, which, you know, obviously the correct answer is categorically no. But it was an interesting setup and an interesting idea for a storyline.
You think the automatic answer should be no?
Of course it should be, Richard, yes.
Somebody has just beaten your wife, raped your wife.
Yes.
Somebody comes along and says, we can sort that out for you.
Yes.
And you should say no.
Well, exactly. They're not exactly sorting it out, are they? It's just utter and pure revenge. Understandable on some level, but it's not going to stop your wife being beaten up and raped. It's already happened. Your
statement, Nathaniel, makes you come across as an inhuman monster.
No, I don't.
This man is suffering. He's in pain. His world is shattered. Of course he's going to take the opportunity.
Well, obviously, you've been to see this film yourself, I take it, Richard.
I have.
Yes. So no doubt you'll recollect that Nicolas Cage's character, Will Gerard, was deliberating for some time. There was a lot of internal dialogue going on because it was such a difficult decision for him to make, wasn't it?
I'm not saying it's not a big call. I'm not saying it's not a tough choice to make. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough. But if he'd have made a different choice, things may have turned out a little bit better for him.
If he'd have made the different choice, the man that raped his wife would have escaped any kind of censure.
We don't know that for sure.
The police, they don't have a good track record with rape, do they? And more often than not, even when the rapist is caught, the women eventually drop the charges because of the ordeal they have to go through.
Well, again, that's all conjecture, Richard. It's all conjecture. I'll reiterate my point. He should have categorically said no, because it's not our place to mete out justice.
See, me and you, ideologically, we're at different ends of the spectrum here, I think.
We are.
Absolutely, it was his place to mete out justice. In fact, if I'd have been him, I would have insisted that I was the one that pulled the bloody trigger.
Right. You'd have been chomping at the bit, wouldn't you?
I would have loved it. Blow the fucker's head off.
Well.
Teach him a lesson.
Like you say, we're polar opposites on this one, Richard. I think that's pretty predictable. But to get back to the film, it was an interesting setup for a storyline. I think that was the point.
It is intriguing.
Sorry?
Sorry, I'm agreeing with you. It is intriguing.
Yes. I think it's safe to say, Richard, that we can both agree that Nicolas Cage is not exactly top of the "ooh, what a great actor" lists. Is that true?
Has Nicolas Cage ever been any good?
I enjoyed in his earlier years, Richard. I remember a film called Moonstruck.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Which I quite enjoyed, with Cher as the star.
Right.
Not sure would that be right up your pipes, because it's a bit of a rom-com thing going on there, but...
Okay.
He was impressive in that. Other than that, my word, I can't think of anything. Face Off, Con Air, The Wicker Man, my God.
You see, Face Off and Con Air, I think they're perfectly fine films for what they are. Just, big, loud actioners.
Absolutely.
There's nothing particularly wrong. I know you don't like that kind of thing. Nothing particularly wrong with them, in my opinion. But Nicolas Cage, bloody awful in both of them.
I guess it kind of fitted quite well then, because, in my opinion, that the films were just absolutely just nonsense.
Yeah.
And whatever part he could have played would have improved it.
He's like, a really bewildered horse when he's on screen. They've got a horse. They've forced it to stand upright, and they've put it in some human clothes, shaved its face a little bit, and then got it to try and speak some lines.
It's an interesting comparison. I've never thought it in that way.
Nicholas Equus Cage.
But
he was in this. I've got to tell you this as well. I thought he was the least convincing on-screen teacher that I've seen since it was Joel Edgerton. I think was his name in this year's movie Warrior.
Actually, that's interesting, because you do see teachers depicted a lot in movies, don't you? It's a pretty common thing, and they're never particularly convincing, are they? Or rarely?
No. I'll tell you what the problem with it is. The teacher's always at the front of the room, espousing words of wisdom, and the class, they're hanging on their every bloody word,
right?
As if it's the most fascinating thing they've ever heard. And it's always with English teachers as well. They tend to be English teachers, and what I love is that these teachers are such an immaculate sense of timing that they reach the end of the chapter that they're reading from just literally 1 second before the bell rings.
Yeah, all too convenient.
Oh, it's ludicrous.
Right.
And he didn't convince me that he knew a bloody thing about what he was teaching that class.
Yeah, fair point, Richard, fair point. Can't disagree with you. But that aside, I thought it was a jolly good performance by him.
By Cage?
Yes, in this movie, yes.
Did you?
I thought he booked the trend.
Oh.
I thought his character helped to garner my attention.
I can't agree.
You don't?
I can't agree, Nathaniel.
Right.
It's not that I thought the film was okay, but it had absolutely nothing to do with Cage.
Right. Where did the interest lie in the film for you then?
The plot was intriguing.
Yeah.
That was a good hook. It made me think of maybe like a Dean Koontz story.
Okay.
A bit of a genre piece, really. That kind of almost like a Euro thriller, even though it was set in America. It had that feel of something like maybe like Frantic. A man on the edge doing desperate things in a desperate situation.
Right.
So it had a decent pace to it.
Yeah, it did.
I felt it never really flagged.
No,
never really got going.
Yeah, that's very true. That's it.
Never got going, but it didn't drag its heels either.
What did you think of Guy
It
Pearce?
was just about got away with it. Go on, Nathaniel, sorry.
What did you think of Guy Pearce?
Well, he looks good, doesn't he?
Doesn't he just? Boy, oh boy.
With that hairstyle, he's got a great shaped head.
I've never heard that compliment before.
Marvellous shape to his skull.
Right, okay.
Obviously, with it shaved in that way, it really came through.
Yeah.
Stole the show, in my opinion, the shape of his head.
Doesn't say a lot for the show, does it?
But he's always an engaging presence, Guy Pearce, when he's on screen. Good actor, good solid performances. Bloody good looking as well.
He is. He's a strange combination, Richard. I found him a combination of both pretty and rugged.
Yeah.
An unusual combination, but it certainly works. It tickled my fancy, I have to say.
Do you know where he started out?
Wasn't it Neighbours?
Well done. You're right. He was.
Yeah. So he's got a real saccharine background, but he stepped up to the plate. Fair play to him.
He has, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I can't approve of him not wearing a tie, though.
Right. No, he was a little too casual, wasn't he?
It's encouraging sloppiness, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
In general society.
Doesn't set the right standards at all. I thought his character was a really interesting one, Richard.
Say that again?
I thought his character was a really interesting one.
Yes.
I thought his actual character begged moral questions.
Yes.
I mean, the way the film was portrayed, I think the audience were being led one way, that he was being very much portrayed the bad guy, and that's what the director wanted you to think. But I saw it slightly differently, I have to say. I mean, he was the head of a vigilante group, yes, but I wasn't altogether sure. I mean, of course he didn't want his group exposed. He saw himself and his cohorts as doing good work, and he simply couldn't afford for anyone to threaten that.
They were trying to clean up the city, weren't they?
They were.
And I cannot particularly disapprove of that.
I didn't think you would.
I can't.
You're all for a bit of, well, you like to get the job done with you, don't you? You know, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and revenge is sweet. And
I mean, that's the positive message of this movie, isn't it? Overall, the eye for an eye, and I heartily approve.
Oh, I know you do, but we've already discussed that. I don't disagree with that. I don't agree with that at all. But you know, looking at things in kind of from a distance, in the fuller picture of things, I thought the Guy Pearce character, sorry, his name slips me, wasn't Simon Adams. Yes, correct, thank you. Wasn't as bad as the movie tried to make him out to be.
So even in your world of never-ending shades of grey, where you try and justify the most despicable act of people because of something awful that happened in their childhood,
right.
Even in this world of yours,
yes,
you can see some redeeming quality in Simon.
Yes, I can. Yes,
that's good. That's good. I think you're developing. You're maturing, Nathaniel.
I'm glad I have your approval.
January Jones, Nathaniel.
Right. Yes.
Played Laura. She was so beautiful.
So beautiful, wasn't she?
She was electrifying when she was on screen.
Electrifying? She was Pat Richard. She was very pretty, Pat.
Oh.
To call her electrifying is the most disjointed adjective I can possibly think of.
She magnetised the eyes. She was mesmeric.
Was she?
It was a scintillating performance. I'd like to touch her little boobies, Nathaniel. I'd like to touch her little boobies.
Would you?
I can't help it.
Easy now. Easy.
I know it's wrong.
She's a pretty lass. She filled the hole.
Oh, you're leading me there. You're leading me there.
I didn't think I did that intention.
I'm not going to go for it. There was one standout scene in this film, I thought.
Go on.
It was the bit where Cage is crossing the road.
Yes.
With the bad guy after him.
Okay.
And the cars are veering off all over the place.
Yes, I remember.
I thought that was ever so well done.
Choreography, you mean?
Yeah, it's just really well staged.
Yeah, it was reasonable viewing.
You don't give a shit about that kind of thing, do you? Well, it takes real skill and talent to stage manage something like that.
You're absolutely right, Richard. I'm being far too dismissive. You're quite correct. That there's a lot of work gone into that scene, so you're quite right to load it up.
There's no real payoff to the movie, I felt.
No, there wasn't.
A problem.
Yeah.
The story, it just went along for a bit, and then it stopped.
Well, the way you were kind of banging on about the Laura character, I thought you'd have quite approved of the ending with her kind of grabbing the weapon and sorting the bad guy out once and for all.
You ruined spoilers, Nathaniel.
Think so?
That was a big one, that was. If we had any listeners, we get complaints.
I beg your pardon. For a moment I was thinking there's actually people listening.
You watch that, because once we start to get up to the Robin Ince, Josie Lawrence level of popularity, they'll be hunting you down.
I guess you're right. I'll be slaughtered for this moment.
Interesting use of the post-Hurricane Katrina New Orleans landscape.
Oh, right, yes, interesting take, yeah.
The abandoned shopping mall, in particular.
I hadn't actually picked up on that, Richard. Good observation.
I'm assuming